Good evening, folks, and welcome to tonight's City Council meeting and Committee of the Whole meeting. Tonight's City Council meeting is called to order. I kindly ask our distinguished City Clerk to please take the roll call.
Bowring.
Here.
Bruno.
Here.
Ruby. Here. Kilberg.
Here.
Kasserag.
Here.
Maladra.
Here.
Marks.
Here.
Mayor.
Here.
Paschke.
Here.
Swanson.
I'm not sharing anything secret, but Alderperson Swanson is on a mission trip, so he'll be gone for the next 10 days. He and his wife are doing some good work. Now, with that, we're going to begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to invite our two new friends, Mr. Kersey and Mr. Diaz, to please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. Okay, Clay, I promised you, man, you'd go second. So item 3A is to introduce, what the heck? Let's see, electric lineman Emilio Diaz. Come on up here, Emilio. Am I pronouncing your last name correct, sir?
Diaz? Yes, sir.
Diaz? Okay, good. Now, Clay's listed first on the agenda, but you guys negotiated back there, so you go first.
It's fine. Yes, sir.
Does that sound good? I've got some notes here about you. You were hired first, though.
Yes, sir.
Oh, cool. Started on June 7th.
Right.
The heat wave, man.
I call it that.
Yeah,
I'm from Texas, so.
well, that's what it says. Moved from Texas earlier this year.
Right.
What made the move up north?
My kids live in Naperville.
Oh, nice, man. And of course, you're the father of two boys, 10 and 5.
Yes, sir.
Now, I think you wrote this. And a 3-year-old baby girl.
Yes, sir. My 3-year-old baby girl.
So the 10 and 5 are just boys.
They're my boys.
They're your boys, okay.
That's it.
Thank you for your service. You served the United States Marine Corps from 2011 to 2015.
Yes, sir.
And how was that experience?
It was good.
Yeah.
I suggest if a young man needs to figure out life, that a route in the military is probably good to go.
That's a heck of an
Figure out
endorsement.
life. Mm-hmm. So
Is that where you received your training as well?
a little bit of it.
Little bit?
So my job was in communications, and I was
okay.
a 0612 wireman, and so we would run wire and do a little bit of climbing on poles and stuff that I do
that right?
now. So
Wow.
I didn't really come across this job until about 4 years after I got in the Marine Corps. I didn't know what alignment was.
Is that right?
Right. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, that's good.
Now, this is really fascinating, so we want to talk about this for a while. Helped the power line restoration effort in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria in 2018.
Right.
Man,
Yeah.
You-
That was crazy.
I bet it was.
Yeah.
You raised your hand and said, "Send me"?
Well, when I joined the Marine Corps, a friend of mine went into line work. When I joined boot camp, he went to line work after we graduated high school.
Oh, okay.
And so when I got out of the Marine Corps, he kept asking me to come work with him, doing line work, doing power lines.
Yeah.
And I kept telling him, man, I can't afford it. I had a little kid at the time, my oldest son. And I just told him, I can't afford it. And he said, well, Hurricane Maria passed. And he said, we're going to Puerto Rico. I could get you on my crew, and you're gonna get paid real good. So I said, all right, sign me up. And I did it.
Wow.
But yeah, when I got there, that's when I found the camaraderie of the Marine Corps into civilian life,
Oh, that's good.
which is line work that I like doing. So, just being with a group of guys, having that same goal, same objective. And then, those people were out of power for when we were there, they were out of power for 9-10 months.
Unbelievable.
So when we put that power back on, the whole street, the whole blocks, the whole neighborhood were coming out, giving us food, partying. It was a party. It was they loved us. We're like heroes. So
if the power ever goes down on Campbell Road, I'm going to bring you food.
all right,
Now, how long were you in Puerto Rico?
60 days straight, 7/12s we were working. 7/12 from
7
6 to
days a
6.
week, 12-hour days.
Yes, sir. 6 to 6.
And may I ask, what were your accommodations? Were you living in a tents?
We were living in this parking lot stadium. There's a stadium there, and just had a big parking lot with trailers. There was probably like 15 bunks in there,
Yeah.
in each trailer, and then you had a common area of food, of your little cafeteria, and your common area of your showers and stuff.
So 60 days straight, 7/12. And then you were sent back to the States.
We were sent back to the States. I was working with a contractor at the time.
Got it, okay. So really no time off.
No,
How did you bide your time when you finished for the day after the 12 hours?
oh, I mean, there's 200 different other linemen there, and just a bunch of guys, you know. I mean,
That's all we need to know.
You know, it's being in the locker room, you know, being back in the locker room until the next day you gotta wake back up and do it all
Okay, let's
over
talk
again.
locker room, man. You're a big guy. You played ball in Texas?
Yes, sir.
Which ball?
Football, mostly.
Yeah, mostly. What position?
Strong safety, running back. Yes, sir.
You play in one of those stadiums where they build it for 100,000 people and cost 35 million?
I actually played my junior year of high school. We went to playoffs, and we played in the Texas Stadium before they tore it down and made it to the AT&T Stadium.
Really?
Yeah, I played in there. The town I just moved from, their stadium cost like 25 million. Katy, Texas is where I just moved from.
Oh, sure.
So they're a suburb of Houston, west side of Houston.
Good Lord.
But yeah, they're a big football program. I mean, their football out there is just a whole different
Oh,
level.
it's a whole
but-
different world,
yeah.
isn't it? It's yeah, oh, God, yeah. It's like synchronized swimming here. What else do we need to know about you, or would like to know about you, that you want to share?
I'm glad to be here.
We're glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here. It's a beautiful city. It's a beautiful town.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Kids are doing well?
Kids are doing good.
Good.
Yes, sir. They started school.
I was going to
two-
say,
two,
yeah,
3
they
weeks
sure
ago.
did, didn't they?
Yeah, they're having a good time. It's nice. Naperville's nice too. Where I live in Naperville.
Yeah,
So
never
it's
been.
only like 20 minutes. But it's nice there. I mean,
It
this
is nice there.
all the areas out here, all the suburbs out here are very, very nice.
I don't think we have any $25 million football stadiums, do we? Yet.
Yeah, right.
Yet. Well, we're delighted that you're on our team. Thank you
Thank you.
very much.
All right.
And thank you for going first.
All right. Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Crucy.
Kersey.
Kersey, forgive me, Kersey.
That's going to be hard to follow up.
Yeah, that is, man. July 17th is when you started.
Yes.
Okay, what high school did you go to?
I went to Larkin High.
You went to Larkin, born and raised in Elgin's west side.
That's correct.
Nice, man.
And if you know anything about Elgin, there's the west side and then there's the east
Yeah,
side.
yeah, Elgin's a great town, man.
It's nice growing up.
It is nice growing up. You have a 10-year-old son?
Yes. Started school today, first day of school.
No kidding?
We just got back from a long weekend trip down in Florida. He rated that as a 9.5. I asked how school today was. He said 9. So
No kidding. Now, you live out in Pingree Grove.
Correct.
So which school district is that?
It's 300.
300. Oh, that's a big district.
Yeah. He
Huge
goes to a
district.
charter school though, so.
Oh, is that right?
Went to finish school the week after Memorial Day and then goes back after Labor Day, so
That's not
they
too
don't have
bad.
all the school days off and everything
Yeah.
else like the public, so it's
Well, that's cool.
a better learning program, we think.
Now, you claim that you love fishing and motorsports, family trips, and a good campfire with friends. What's the top of those four?
I think a bad day of fishing's better than any great day at work.
And you sound like our former electric superintendent. Didn't you? You ever hear stories about him?
No, I have not yet.
Yeah, where's he living now? Tennessee? Tennessee. That's what I thought, yeah.
Catch a
Huge.
big fish then.
Now, motorsports, like
I like
Schwinn's?
dirt track racing out at Sycamore Speedway.
Oh, no kidding? Do you really?
Yeah. Used to race motocross and hare scrambles on quads in my younger days.
Now, hold on. Do you know what that is?
Four-wheel motorcycles, ATVs.
Did you say hair scramblers?
Hare scrambles, yeah.
What's
Like
that?
It's off-road through the woods, single track, follow the directions up, down hills, real technical stuff, not like a motocross track or anything like that. Just more woodsy type racing.
So you have friends to have campfires with?
I got a beautiful patio that I built in my yard, and it's hard to get the friends coming over anymore nowadays. Everybody's got family and other obligations.
busy.
But yeah, But when they do come, it's a delight.
Oh, that's awesome, man. And we're all invited?
Everybody can come over. BYOB.
What's that mean?
Bring your own birds.
Yeah. Started career with IBEW Local 9.
Yep,
And where's Local 9?
out of Chicago.
Chicago, it is. As a line clearance tree trimmer for 15 years. Good Lord. So what, the whole city did you work in? Or
No, Local 9 is just a union. They basically covered all of Commonwealth Edison's area.
Oh, all, okay, got it.
But I was lucky enough to be working out of Elgin, then I got a crew in Glenbard,
Well, that's convenient.
did all that, so worked as Rockford, Belvedere.
Wow. But always home base was Elgin.
Yep,
So just,
yeah.
you applied for the lineman apprenticeship through Local 196 in 2007.
Correct.
So help us understand from your one experience, that apprenticeship to lineman, what does that?
There's only so much you can learn about trimming trees,
Okay.
and I was at the top of that, and it was either go into management doing that or get into another career. I chose another career where you can learn something new. My
Cool.
brain always likes thinking and learning stuff, so probably one of the best life decisions I've made in my life.
Is that
was
right?
Changing that to that career and being a lineman. Like he said, camaraderie between linemen out on the contractor side is just, it's great.
Is that
I
right?
mean, it's a brotherhood.
So what you're saying is you actually like Emilio?
Yes.
Did you hear that, Emilio?
I like everybody we work with here in the city.
It's good. And it's
Everybody's
a small,
really-
intimate group.
Yes.
It's amazing. Pleased to bring strong work ethic, customer service, and wide range of knowledge to the city of Geneva.
That's correct.
How long you been doing this, man?
The line work
The
itself,
whole thing?
I got my 30-year pin this summer. So I've
30
been-
years?
Yeah.
Is that right? The equipment's changed drastically.
Equipment, safety protocols.
What's changed the most? Safety?
Safety's always been installed since I've been in.
Yeah.
It's always priority number one. I think the younger generation is what's changed. The smartphones, the not,
You know you're gonna sound like an old person.
I
when we start
know.
talking about it.
can't be hard on anybody anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, my God. So did you and Emilio, were both of you in response to the outage we had
The Monday?
when we hit the whoopsie, when the contractor hit
Yeah,
the?
yes,
I mean, we were lucky someone wasn't hurt.
yes. Everybody was lucky that nobody got hurt or killed on that.
Good Lord.
But the equipment acted like it should and.
Is that right?
Yeah.
It did as it was supposed to. That's a good sign. What else should we know about you? Clay?
Got a new car recently.
Oh, yeah? What kind?
It's a new Challenger.
They still make those
Special-
things?
Yeah,
Dodge Challenger?
special edition.
Do they? That's a muscle car, man.
Yes.
But you're one of those guys, though.
I got rid of all my other toys, so I
you
told the
did?
wife I needed something. So I've been taking that to car shows this summer. Been
Really?
Enjoying that. Kind of a different kind of crowd. It's kind of like camping, same kind of people, you know, you can go and interact and talk.
Can I ask a personal question?
Sure.
How do you fit into a Challenger?
A lot better than I would a Corvette.
It's a good answer, man. It's a good answer. Well, we're delighted to have you on our team,
I'm
and thanks for hanging out
pleased
with
to
us
be
tonight.
here. This is great.
Thank you. I'll see you at the shop sooner than later.
Probably.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, item 3B is to consider resolution number 2023-85, requesting closure of traffic lanes on State of Illinois Route 38 for the Geneva High School Homecoming Parade, September 15th, 2023. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Bruno made the motion, and Mayor made the second. Any enlightening information we need here, Stephanie?
I don't know that it's enlightening, but the high school has submitted their special event application for the annual homecoming parade. The parade route includes a portion of State Street, which is Illinois Route 38, between Anderson and Third, and closure of state roads for such purpose require the municipal authority to approve a resolution assuming control and responsibility for the roadway. So that is what you're being asked to do this evening.
I'm going to ask Alderperson Kilberg, who do we play at homecoming?
Lake Park.
Lake Park. And Alderman Kilberg, how long have you been on the chains?
Too long.
The field was only 80 yards when you started. It was like, but Lake Park. Any questions, any comments? All in favor of this resolution, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Item 3B has been approved by this council with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. Item 3C, presentation on fire and police pensions actuarial reports. We have a
So I would introduce, we have Jason Franken of Foster & Foster.
Hi, Jason.
I would note when he was here last year, I think he also followed some new employee introductions.
Yeah,
So
it's
this
one
is
of my
becoming
favorite
kind of a-
presentations of the years. I learned about all the new people and a lot of details.
Isn't that
So
great?
yeah, no, it's nice.
Awesome, man.
All right. Well, thank you for having me again. After that, this is probably going to seem pretty boring, but
So far, so good. So-
all right. Okay, so I'm here to talk about the May 1st, 2023 actuarial valuation for the police and the fire pension funds. So if you recall, last year when I was here, we were in the process, and I say we, the collective we, of consolidating all of the assets for the police fund. The fire fund had happened, that consolidation had happened a little earlier, and so I can report now that all of the assets have been consolidated. So the assets for each fund are now part of the 2 consolidated funds. One, the police monies with the consolidated police fund, and the fire monies with the consolidated fire fund. So that's a change over the last couple of years. The investments are now controlled by the 9-member board for each fund. The other change this year was that we reduced the payroll growth assumption. We've talked about this a lot over the years. The higher that rate, the more backloading there is in the contribution. So over the last few years, we've made it a priority to lower that payroll growth assumption, and we've lowered it from 3.5 to 3. The goal of lowering that is to reduce some of the backloading. So by lowering that assumption, it does increase the contribution requirements today, but it gets more money in the fund in the short term, and over the long term, you earn more investment income on that money. So over the long term, it does save the city money, but it does lead to a short-term increase in your contribution requirement. The other thing of note for this year is that the investment returns, through April 30th, it wasn't a great year. It wasn't terrible, but the funds earned, less than 1% each. It was, I think, 0.3% for the police and 0.7% for the fire. So the returns were significantly less than our 7% that we're assuming. And when the investments earn less than that 7%, it does put upward pressure on our contribution requirement. We do smooth these losses in gains on the investments over a 5-year period. So even though you got less than 1% this year, we do recognize that loss over a 5-year period with the goal of so that any 1 year the loss doesn't increase or decrease the contribution by too much. Some years, if you have a really bad year or a really good year, it can have a significant impact on your contribution. But we tried to dampen that by smoothing over a 5-year period. So both plans this year did have a decrease to the funded ratio. The funded ratio for the police fund went from 67.1% down to 60.9%. So the funded ratio did go down by 0.8%. For the fire fund, it went from 68.3% down to 67.5%. So that funded ratio decreased by 0.8% as well. So you can see, as a result of of that poor return for the year, we did see our funded ratios go down. In terms of the contribution requirement for the police plan went up by $220,000 over last year. So that was an 11.4% increase to the contribution requirement. About 26% of that was attributable to the payroll growth change. The rest of it was due to the poor experience. So again, a $220,000 increase to the contribution requirement for police, and there was a $102,000 increase to the contribution requirement for fire. Again, it was about 27,000 of that was attributable to the payroll growth assumption change. The rest of it was experience. It went down by by less than it was a $102,000 increase versus a $220,000 increase for police. The difference is just the fire fund has slightly better funded. It's nearly 68% funded versus 61%, and the police plan is just bigger. There's about nearly $30 million of assets in the police fund, and only about 18 or 19 million in fire. So the year-to-year increases or decreases to in the police plan tend to just be larger because it is a bigger plan than the fire. I guess those are the highlights. Are there, I'm happy to answer any specific questions that the board or the council, has.
Any questions for our guest? Just a couple that I know are softball questions. Number of sworn officers that this plan covers?
So the number for police officers as of May 1st, 2023 is 36, and for the fire, there's 22 firefighters that are active firefighters that are covered by the plan.
Anyone else? There's no action to be taken tonight. It's just a presentation, and we appreciate and value that presentation. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to add?
No, I'm just, I thought I was going to be asked like 100 questions or 20 questions based on the prior speakers, but our
Did you play football in high school?
I did, yes. I came from
I don't mean just dress. Did you actually play?
I did, but I will caveat that by saying that in my high school, it was really small school. We, pretty
What
much
school?
every
What school?
every male athlete had to play football, or we couldn't form a team.
No, what school was this?
I grew up in Iowa, so my high school was Dike New Hartford High School. It's northeast by Cedar Falls, by University of Northern Iowa.
Sure, yeah.
So yeah, that's where I grew up at, in small town Iowa.
You familiar with that town, Dean?
Sure, Chuck Grass.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that's my claim to fame.
Probably about Patrick's age.
Patrick's a little younger than me, because he's currently a state senator,
Well, he leads the House of Representatives.
oh, the House, okay, yeah. So yeah, that they were Chuck's son was my basketball coach, one of my basketball coaches.
So you
I
played
know
basketball
Chuck.
too?
Yeah, like I said, you had to do everything. Otherwise, there was 36 people in my class.
And may I ask where you graduated, what level? Were you like 34th? 30?
I squeaked in the top 30.
Did you?
So yeah,
All actuaries do, don't they?
yeah. We got to try to anyway. So
That's awesome.
yep.
No other questions from the dais? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Item 4, amendments to the agenda. Are there any this evening? Item 5 is the omnibus agenda. All items marked with an asterisk are considered to be routine by this council, and those items can be acted upon with one motion. Is there such a motion? Fudge. There's 3 of them. Mr. Marks, and of course, Alderperson Bowring. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Marks? Aye. Mayor?
Aye.
Paschke?
Aye.
Bowring?
Aye.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby. Aye. Kilberg,
Aye.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
With a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 absent, the omnibus agenda has been approved by this council. Item number 10, municipal bills for payment. We kindly ask our city clerk to please read the bills in their aggregate for our consideration.
Expenditures total $1,823,296.94.
Mayor, I move that we approve and pay the bills as read. The individual items that add up to that amount can be found in tonight's city council packet on the city website.
Alderperson, sorry. Alderperson Bruno, just so eloquent. It's like, I don't know what the hell you said, but it sounds good, man.
I
It's
can
like-
play solitaire while I say that.
You really could. Alderperson Bruno makes the motion to pay the bills as presented, which are available in the council packet and on the city's website. The second is offered by Alderperson Kosarog. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
All right. Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby. Aye. Kilberg,
Aye.
Kasserag. Aye. Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mayor.
Aye.
Paschke.
Aye.
Bowering.
Aye.
With a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 absent, the bills have been approved. My apologies to Alderperson Kosarog. I enunciated the O, and I apologize for that. Thank you, Brett. Thank you. Committee of the whole items of business, folks, there are none. We jump to item 12, presentation of ordinances and resolutions. I should clarify, those committee of the whole items were approved on the omnibus agenda. Item 12A, consider resolution number 2023-94, declaring surplus property of City Hall. No, just kidding. Declaring surplus property. Is there a motion? Bowering makes the motion. Seconded by Alderperson Patchke. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so for your consideration is a resolution authorizing 3 Verifone VX 520 credit card machines to be declared surplus as this equipment is no longer needed for use by the city.
Does that include the VHS and Betamax machine we had as well? Is there we have a motion? We have a second? Any questions? I think a voice vote is sufficient, don't you, Mr. City Attorney? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? With a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 absent, item 12A has been approved by this council. Item 12B, consider resolution number 2023-95, rejecting all bids opened on August 7th, 2023, for the sale of surplus property at 617 East State Street. Is there a motion to put this on the table? Alderperson Mayor, Alderperson Kosarog makes the second. Ms. Dawkins?
Okay, so the property at 617 East State Street was declared surplus, and a notice for sale was published. 2 bids were received and reviewed, and then per direction, a resolution authorizing the rejection of bids is provided for city council action.
We have a motion by Mayor, a second by Kosarog. Any questions from the dais regarding this action? This is a motion to reject all bids. Madam Clerk, please take the roll.
Mayor. Aye. Paschke.
Aye.
Bowering.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Ruby. Aye. Kilberg.
Aye.
Kasserag.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Resolution number 2023-95 has been approved by this council with a vote of 9 in the affirmative, 0 in the negative, and 1 absent. Item 12C, consider resolution number 2023-96, authorizing acceptance of a plat of dedication to add a right-of-way to the north side of Geneva Drive, immediately west of Couts Road. Is there a motion? Alderperson Bowering makes the motion. Seconded by Alderperson Patchke. Ms. Dawkins.
Okay, so in August 2021, the City Council passed Resolution 2021-71, authorizing the acquisition of necessary parcels related to the Couts Road reconstruction project. For your consideration this evening is a plat of dedication of .468 acres of additional right-of-way along the north side of Geneva Drive, west of Couts Road. This plat was prepared by the property owner and reviewed and approved by staff and the city attorney. And if you have any specific questions, Director Babica is with us this evening.
Are there any questions for Director Babica regarding this item, item 12C? If not, Madam Clerk, when you're available, please take the roll.
Bowering.
Aye.
Bruno.
Aye.
Ruby.
Aye.
Kilberg.
Aye.
Kasserag.
Aye.
Maladra.
Aye.
Marks.
Aye.
Mayor. Aye. Teschke.
Aye.
Resolution number 2023-96 has been approved by this council with 9 affirmative votes, 0 nay votes, and 1 absent. We're at item 13, folks, public comment. When recognized by the chair, please join us at the podium, state your name for the record, and provide your public comments. Please understand that this is your time to be heard and the public body's time to listen. No discussion or debate will follow, and no engagement will take place. So anyone wishing to speak tonight? Okey-doke.
I did play football in high school.
Did you? Where?
Palmyra, Missouri.
Hold on, is that over near, like, where is that?
Actually right across the river from Quincy.
Ah. I'm gonna look up your yearbook picture.
We did have 63 in my class.
Nice.
What I thought I'd do tonight is I'm not sure that all of you are aware of what I'm really asking for in terms of items and dollars to make repairs to my home. So I did turn in an itemized list with the incident report, but I'm not sure that you've all seen it, but it's worth reviewing. Front stoop to my house was damaged. The quote to replace that was $7,075. Damage to my gutters, $510.78. Shutters, $489.39. Labor to install, $180. Replace boxwood bushes, 3 of those at $64. Labor for that, $60. Replace 4 rose bushes, $21.32. Labor, $60. Replace brick molding around my garage, $74.70. Labor, $60. 2 screens repaired, a total of $85.40. Another screen, a total of, it was a different size, $60.80. And another screen, $43.20. A grand total of $8,784.64. That's what my claim is. I would put a caveat in there that my front stoop is going to require a city permit, which I have no idea what you people are going to want for that, but that would be included as well. So that's, I just thought I would inform everybody of that. I do have a question. I noticed on the way in, right over here on the corner is a locust tree on city property that's appears to be about the same variety and age of the tree that fell on my house. And my question to you is, if one of these so-called acts of God makes that tree fall on this building, are you covered? Think about that. Lastly, I have repeatedly asked for a meeting with a representative from Sedgwick, a sit-down meeting person, face-to-face. That apparently is not going to happen, or can't happen, won't happen. Question I have is that can't do or won't do. There's a difference. I've been offered a video conference or a phone conference. I'm not so sure that's going to solve the problem because I have physical evidence to present. Again, I have repeatedly asked for that. My last email was, you can or can't do it, yes or no. And all I got was a beat around the bush, we'll do a video conference. All I wanted to know is a yes or no, can you do it or not? Apparently you cannot. So, that's where we are, and that's about all I have for this evening.
Jump in.
Good evening, all. Brian Marr, June Marr, East Lane, Geneva Township. Many of you were here, not all of you, when we came in front of you to tell you about the trees on the MIF Geneva potential development. And we do understand that at this time it's not annexed into the city, so there is nothing that this body can do. At the time, our intent was merely to bring awareness to everyone about this. And I think everyone here is aware of it. Many of you are probably aware of what happened today as well. There are also many other people that now have awareness about this project. We're up to 2,200 on a change.org petition, which, as I understand, never having done one, it's a huge number apparently. But it is with a heavy heart that I tell you what happened today when I woke up and heard the sound of saws in the woods. And there's now a 30-foot wide gash right through the heart of this remnant oak woodlands. Now, and I truly believe this, that when I met with staff in 2018 and was told that the trees would not be touched, I truly believe that that was said, not with bad intent. The wetlands are a completely separate part of this. The wetlands are protected, but the trees have no protection. There are bats in the woods. Are they long-eared bats that are endangered? We don't know yet because they're very hard to get a picture of or to see. About the only way you can determine that is if you find a carcass. The way the state IDNR makes a determination prior to signing off on something like this, if there has been a long-eared bat within, I believe it's a 15-mile radius, then automatically it's protected. They feel that that's within their range. The nearest verified long-eared bat was further than the 15 or whatever that number is, was further away. There are numerous roosts in these woods. Some of these roosts are maternal roosts. The bats come back generation after generation to these old oak trees. Once again, this is a viable remnant oak woodlands. There are saplings. I went out there today. Yes, I went out there. Standing by itself in an open field was an oak tree, probably about this size, standing by itself, chopped over, left about this much left of it. The animals here, the biodiversity, the CO2 sequestration, the fact that we can spend all the time that we spent talking about a blacksmith shop for 150 years old, but here we are with an area that has much to offer, and there's not a discussion. I know that this is not your place to do anything yet, but I'm going to tell you, when we came in to tell you about raising awareness to you, hoping that someone here, perhaps someone somewhere could do something, really all we wanted to do was someone to talk to MIF. And we know there's back channels. I know there's back channel conversations going on with MIF. Initially, all we wanted was Building 5. We didn't have a problem with the other 7 buildings out there. It's on open land. Building 5 takes out these trees. That's all we asked for. Someone have a conversation with MIF. Yet here we are, because no one could. MIF won't talk to anyone. They won't even talk to the reporters. So I believe that we did our job in raising awareness at this level, at the county level, because there will be a tree preservation ordinance voted on. It's not going to do any good for these, though. There will be an opportunity for you to annex, change the zoning, everything. This will all go through the process. And I think awareness has been raised, and I think it's going to be a little more difficult now to get anything through. We'll see what happens, but I really feel that the city of Geneva that we've been in for 35 years, we love this town, man. And it's a failure.
Thank you, honey, for being so eloquent. I am so proud of you. Tonight, I have not chosen to be quite so eloquent. What I would like to do this evening is congratulate the city of Geneva on its brand-new logo, Stump City, USA. Stumps. That's what we saw today. Stumps. Now, I'm no fool, and I believe that.
Ms. Marr, we're going to ask you to speak at the podium because we want to make certain that your words are captured for those tuning in. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. I feel that this new logo is now your legacy. You own it. You have allowed this to happen through inaction.
We're going to have to ask you to remove that piece in front of the podium. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Make sure the camera sees it. You will own it. This will be the legacy of this administration, of this city council. People will know. And elections have consequences, but in my heart of hearts, I do feel that leadership could have prevented this in a better way, and I'm very disappointed in this city council and administration for not stepping up and doing the things that they claim to honor on their Arbor Day proclamations, on their Tree City USA, and all that other blankety-blank hypocrisy. You will own this as your legacy. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Carl, and my husband, Bob Dynick, and I moved to Geneva. We wanted to move to Geneva 2 years ago. We moved here in 2021, and we lived in Batavia for 29 years. I heard about these oak trees very recently, and I was, first I have to say, as a garden designer, as a certified horticulturalist, as a master naturalist, and as a prairie steward at the Morton Arboretum, I am appalled at what Geneva is allowed, because they're cut down today, what Geneva allowed to happen. So my claim to fame is that I started the Braeburn Marsh Defenders 23 years ago. And some of you may or may not remember or know of what happened at Braeburn Marsh. But I'm just gobsmacked at the difference that the City Council of Batavia and the citizens of Batavia, the difference between Batavia and the city of Geneva regarding these oak trees. We're always at the City Council meetings regarding Braeburn Marsh, and which was unincorporated, and just like this property is. And the city we were always in full communication with the city. Surprisingly enough, we were in full communication with the developer of that property, which was Aetna Development. They wanted to do Best Buy, which moved to Geneva, so you're welcome. They wanted, I think they were talking about putting in a Walmart, which actually moved across the street. We were always in full communication with the development company, which when I heard when I was told that this developer refuses to talk to anybody. I find that really strange. And we always knew that there was going to be development at Brayburn Marsh. But what we did was really make that footprint a lot smaller over at that area. We knew it was going to be developed. And looking back, I actually looked up some articles, some old Tribune articles today about the Brayburn Marsh Defenders and what was going on at that time. And since that property at that time was not annexed to the city of Batavia, a lot of us walked around Batavia with petitions asking whether the city council should vote to annex that property. And the language, it was going to be on the ballot so that Batavia residents could vote on annexation of this. And the language was, shall the city council for the city of Batavia deny the annexation petition of Etna Development and do everything in its power to maintain the existing natural area commonly referred to as the Brayburn Marsh and its current state as a marsh and open space. So I know there's no debate on this or talk on this, but I just was wondering why did, if that ever came up with this city council. And I also recall that at the time, the Kane County Board's Executive Committee I know there's no tree preservation ordinance, not with the Kane County, but the Kane County Board's Executive Committee recommended that the full board approve committing up to $1 million in riverboat funds to aid the Brayburn Marsh Defenders. So they were willing to put this money towards buying this property. The Kane County Forest Preserve District's Executive Committee took similar action, voting to have its board pledge $1 million from its land acquisition funds. So that was $2 million for a marsh. That was not 300 years old. It was man-made. So these are remnant woodlands that are being destroyed next to their property. It's a remnant woodland that 300 years ago the Native Americans walked on. And now it's going to be a warehouse? Is there going to be any type of environmental review of how they're going to build this warehouse? Because I remember when we were discussing this with the developer during the Brayburn Marsh discussion, we wanted them to use like making the parking lot like environmental, so that it's not like 1 million square feet of concrete, and planting native trees and native plants around the marsh. Is that going to be discussed with this developer who, who obviously is not talking to anybody? I mean, we sat down, I and the city planner of Batavia at that time sat down with the developer's attorney and looked at landscape design plans. Is that going to be done for this warehouse? So I know there's no discussion or debate about it, but as a resident of Geneva, a very environmental one who's very concerned with the environment of Geneva, I'm just wondering if that's going to happen, because it's one thing to tear up a farmer's cornfield to build these mega warehouses that are not even rented to anybody yet. They're done on spec. I mean, it just is mind-boggling to me that this was allowed to happen. I mean, 300-year-old oak trees cannot be replaced. I don't know if anyone, I know how important those are. I went out and searched for witness trees as part of my naturalist training. I know how important they are. And you would think with climate change now, I mean, 23 years ago with the Brayburn Marsh, there was no talk about climate change. Now people are talking about climate change. And the more trees there are, the more that helps heat, the weather and everything. And I just have to say that if, Geneva considers itself a tree city, allowing these 300-year-old oak trees to be chopped down, you better take that back. because it doesn't mean a thing.
Sorry. Apologize if I'm everybody that wanted to speak. I have to be at work at 4:30 in the morning, so I apologize. My name's Rick Kozlowski. I'm not from Geneva. I'm from Warrenville, but I grew up in the area. I've been familiar with that property, the Bork Farm, my entire life. Hunted there when I was a kid. My dad's family, West Chicago was a really small town back then, so there weren't a lot of people and everybody knew each other. I mean, I've known the Bork family forever. I'm not connected, I mean, I'm aware of what Brian and the Sept Geneva trees and all that are trying to do. I'm not connected with them in any way. But I do have information to share that isn't being talked about. I have an extensive background doing environmental work, habitat management work. I was a senior project manager for the biggest environmental company in the state, doing multi-million-dollar projects with the state Army Corps of Engineers. I have a background in this. I know who did the surveys. I know who did the environmental survey. I know who did the archaeological surveys. I know who did the environmental impact survey for the property. I'm not making any accusations, but they weren't done well. The evaluation on the trees, on the wooded area on the property, really seriously undervalues how good this piece of property is. There are not 300-year-old trees on the property, but there are pre-contact trees there, and quite a few pre-contact trees. And this is important because this is a seed bank. It's not just habitat, it's not just animals. It's an entire system. And this is a little remnant. This is all we have left are these little scraps, these little remnants that didn't get plowed under, didn't get clear cut between 1840 and 1880 when, I don't know if you're aware of this, but 98% of the state was clear cut between 1840 and 1880. Everything was made out of wood. Roads were made out of wood. Everything, you burned wood. Everything was wood. They literally came in and clear cut the whole state, the entire state, and then plowed almost all of it. We have almost no old trees. We have no old growth forest anywhere in the state of Illinois. All we have are little tiny pockets of trees, of old trees. There were 2 Chicago bearing trees on that property, witness trees. If you go look on the Field Museum website, it shows that they're still there. They're not there. They didn't apply for permits. They didn't do anything. They just a year and a half ago, contractor that rents part of the land wanted a bigger lot. They cut them down. These are 300-year-old plus trees that are on the National Historic Landmark list. These are protected. No, they just cut them down. Here's the thing. There's been numerous archaeological surveys done on the property. You have to understand how this works. The state archaeologists get one shot to go out and look at the property. They have no control over the conditions. They have no control over the time they go. It's just they get one shot, you walk out, you get to walk around and see whatever's laying around, and that's it. And they make an evaluation on if there's anything they're worth investigating or not. There could be something incredible right out there in the lawn in the yard across the street that's under the grass. That how are you going to know it's there? Because you're not allowed to investigate on purpose. Well, here's the thing. I do archaeological work. For the state. I do a lot of work with the state. I do a lot of volunteer work with the Illinois State Archaeological Survey. I do work locally. I do paleo. I'm what they call an avocational archaeologist, and I do Paleo-Indian research. And I work with people at the state that we're all involved in a big Paleo-Indian research project. Those are the first people here. We're talking about the time from 13,500 to 10,000 years ago. There is, right where Building 5 is going, there is a registered, with the state, Paleo-Indian campsite. There's an 11,000-year-old campsite right there. We have been trying to get access for 3 years, just to come in and salvage it. We can't, they did everything by the book. You guys have no control. This is all done through King County, so it's not, you have no influence on this. I'm not blaming any of you or pointing fingers. Just making you aware that we've been trying to get access. We've offered to come in and for free and do the work. They don't talk to anybody. And here's the other thing. I have evidence. There's evidence that the initial fur trading post, the two brothers that came out, and what became Geneva in 1828, 1827 to 1828, they came out and set up a fur trading post 1.5 miles from the river near the Potawatomi village. Black Hawk's War kicked off in 1830, and they got out of here, like a lot of people did. I don't know if you don't know the history of Black Hawk's War. This was not a good place to be if you were a white settler at that time. They left. They came back 2 years later, and instead of going back to where they were, the Potawatomi village was no longer there, and they moved down to the river and built the mill. There's real good reason to believe that the site of that fur trading post is on that farm, under those trees. I have a lot of evidence that points to that that's where Geneva was started, was on that property. You guys don't have much control over this. I just wanted you to be aware. The state's aware. Jeff Kirchen, who is the State Historic Preservation Officer, was trying to contact the developer today. I don't know how the permits were written, the environmental permits for the cutting of the trees, but it shouldn't be just that 20-acre easement for the conservation easements that's covered because of the bats. Legally, they should not be able to cut in there until October 1st, period. But they're in there. This is the attitude they just have about everything, and this is who you're getting into bed with. And I have no control over any of this, but I'm just giving you the information. I'm happy off the record to share more detailed information. There's archaeological features all over that property, and most of it dates from 11,000 to about 8,000 years ago, which is the late Paleo, early Archaic. These are the very first people coming back in here and settling this landscape after the Ice Age ended. And this was a whole brand new landscape. They were coming onto a completely new landscape. When the glaciers retreated, this looked like the surface of Mars, literally. It was just piles of rock and gravel and sand and clay with water running through it. It took a couple thousand years for the land to heal enough for people to start coming back. Really, these were the very first people to come back. And we have a full-blown campsite sitting right on that property that it's in an area that's been plowed, it's disturbed, but it's relatively flat, it hasn't moved, all the material's there, and we know next to nothing about these people. The Paleo period, that's why that's why these sites are protected, because they are so rare. You got to realize that at the time that campsite was there were maybe 25,000 people in all of North America. And it's 11,000 years old, and we know they were there, and it's a large campsite. They weren't there for a night, couple nights, couple hunters, and they moved on. This is a large campsite. And it deserves, if we can't stop the development. It's not going to stop. We all know this. But this deserves to at least be salvaged. It needs to be recorded and protected. We can't stop it, but we can at least get the stuff out. And we need help, because they won't talk to anybody. The IEPA, it's not even worth picking up the phone. They don't care, period. State Preservation Officer has done what he can. He's reached out to everybody. We've been trying to get in there for 3 years. So just so you guys are all aware of what is out there. I appreciate your time, and hope you guys have a good night. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Rachel K. Albers. east side of Geneva. They paved paradise and put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging hot spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They paved paradise and put up a warehouse development. I am here today to talk about paving paradise and putting up parking lots and warehouses. So I join my fellow residents with concern. And yeah, I think there's a place for art in protest. I also think it's helpful to disrupt what can be long, boring meetings, because we're not talking about boring things. It might be a difficult forum, right? But we're talking about the native land here. We're talking about Illinois' history. We're talking about the air our children breathe. We're talking about the trees that blow on a hot summer's day and cool us off. We're talking about the beauty of this world. That's what we're talking about. And we have to be constrained by this forum, and yet I wanted to bring a little of art, not to disrespect the city council, but because the city council exists to uplift and preserve our way of life, our joy, our art, our children, our happiness, our Labor Day weekends, our summer barbecues and our winter campfires. That's why I'm here. A lot of other people have made a lot of great points about these trees. Something that I do want to mention is once they're gone, don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? And I don't think we'll know what we got until it's gone. Because this is a city, a tree city, that says that it's committed to environmental justice. Mayor Burns, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to believe that you are the chairman of the environmental committee of the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus. And on September 19th, your meeting is about environmental justice. And to me, what is happening to these trees is an environmental injustice for all the reasons cited tonight. One big thing is these indigenous artifacts that were here before we were here, before European or white settlers were ever here. We've got the bats, the endangered bats. We've got 100+ wildlife species that are nourished and supported by these trees. Not to mention the improvement that these trees give us to water quality, how they prevent soil erosion, how they improve our air that we breathe, mitigate heat. One of our fellow residents said something about people weren't talking about climate change 25 years ago. Now they are talking about climate change. We're not talking about climate change. We're living in climate change. We all lived it this summer. Smog and heat indexes and the hottest days in the history of the world happened this summer. I won't go into all the details about what warehouses do to the environment. You guys know that. You can Google it. It's on the record. It's not speculation. It's not fear-mongering. It's fact. But what I will say, as we move forward, because yes, I am aware that the city can't officially do anything. I disagree that they can't have some form of influence. 2,200 people have signed a petition. Thousands of people across the region. Tonight on CBS Chicago News, all of Chicagoland heard about us and our fighting for these trees. In the Daily Herald, I talked to NPR today, talked to WBEZ today. People care. Anytime someone hears about this, all across the country, people care. And I have heard stories from people who have heard about this and said, I heard about a warehouse project in my area. Here's what it did to us. Here's how my community degraded in the 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years after. I've talked to people who have been in regions where MIF has developed. And the experience that we're having, and this is what I think is important going forward to bring to your attention as City Council, you may not be able to prevent or stop or do anything, but MIF is going to want things from us in the future. They've already indicated that they are going to want things. They're going to want favors. They're going to want adjustments. They're going to want annexation. They're going to want to go around policies. Well, and we're not going to necessarily abide by the tree preservation policy. Can we do this instead? But as many residents have shared tonight, MIF has also indicated they do not care about us. They are not friendly to us. And when I hear stories about developers in Batavia who are having conversations with the residents and making compromises and concessions and saying, well, how can we work with you to make this better? Because they smartly, strategically, rightly know that they're going to have a long-term relationship with this city and its residents, and they're going to want to make sure that they can have a friendly relationship. MIF has shown us before they've even really broken ground, honestly, what kind of a partner they're going to be for the city of Geneva, what kind of a neighbor they're going to be for us. And I don't know about you, but I live just a few blocks away from this. So I'm going to spend the rest of my childhood life growing up is going to be with this bully at our back. So I definitely urge the council to remember how MIF has treated us, ignored us, been dismissive of us, laughed in our faces today when we talked to them about our concerns. I know for a fact that MIF could move their warehouse number 5. They just don't want to do it. Because they took all the trees, you put them in a tree museum, you charge the people $1.50 just to see them. That's the rest of the lyrics of that song, They Paved Paradise. Joni Mitchell. They could move it, but it would cost them. And instead they're willing to trade 300 plus years of heritage, all of the damage to our environment, and they're willing to trade their friendly relationship with us for what, a few dollars? That says a lot to me. I would urge the council, and I would urge you, Mayor Burns, as the chairman of the environmental committee for the Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus, I think there's a way to communicate to MIF without betraying your public office. I really do. I believe there's something more that can be done here. I believe there is something more that can be done here. But until that happens, I will be here and I'll be singing. So I'm taking requests. Let me know what you want me to bring in next time, all right? You got a few days to prepare. Maybe I'll bring my guitar. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it very much.
Anyone else?
Hi, Jean McGowan. As you all know, I dislike public speaking, but I want to thank Rachel for her eloquent words and beautiful singing. I couldn't have sung better or said what she said better myself. I also want to remind the council of my opinion. This is my opinion. I hope you'll give me the ability to share my opinion, whether you agree with it or not. That when I was on city council, the information about the oak trees was not made well known, if known at all, to me when I was on this council a couple years ago. And that does not sit well with me at all. I think about that every day, and that's what motivates me to try and do what I can on a daily basis to try to save this pristine oak forest, which is part of our community, even if it is a few yards outside of the city of Geneva proper. This company, MIF, wishes to annex the entire property to the city of Geneva. The groundwork has been, it's been being worked on the last few years. There's a partnership that's been taking place between the city of Geneva and MIF. So I find it very difficult to understand why we don't have the leadership to do something, especially Mayor Burns, in your respected role as the chair of that Metropolitan Mayor's Caucus Environmental Committee. You have so many regional connections, national connections. You've been our mayor for so long. You've been doing an amazing job. I find it extremely difficult to believe that there's nothing you could possibly do, or nothing that this council or its committees could possibly do. Everyone's been told, you're not allowed to talk about it. Natural Resources Committee, you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to speak out about this environmental issue that's affecting our community. I find that grossly unfair. And I challenge you to try to save these trees. There are plans out there that show that Building 5 can be repositioned in such a way that these acres of oak forest can be saved. And we do need a compromise. We need that kind of leadership. The environmental concerns that exist now require a new and different approach. So the old playbook of maybe 5, 10, 20 years ago needs to catch up. We need to bring it up to speed. And I don't want MIF as a neighbor. I don't think the over 2,000 people who've signed the change.org petition on the website, which is www.savegenevaoaks.com. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. I think that they want to save these trees. And I don't think that all of those thousands of people, want MIF to be part of our community if this is how they're going to be treating us and our environment. So we need to take different measures. You are the perfect person, Mayor Burns, to do something about this. And I would just like to say, thank you for allowing me to exercise my First Amendment rights of free speech and not wash away my message, because I will keep coming back and telling people what my message is. SaveGenevaOaks.com. Thank you.
My daughter Alice was mad at me that I didn't allow her to say something because she wanted to say something tonight. Alice, you want to say your name?
Yeah.
Say your name.
My name is Alice.
Yeah, and what did you want to say?
Can you remind me?
Can I remind you? Why are we here? Why are we here for?
The trees.
Yeah, we're here for the trees. You went and saw those trees, didn't you?
Well, before.
Before, yeah. What did you hear that happened today?
Some of the trees were cut down.
Yeah, some of the trees were cut down. What did you say to me when I told you that after school?
Mm-hmm.
You don't remember? I said, can you believe it? They cut down the trees today.
Almost all the trees?
Yeah, almost all the trees. Not almost, not all of them. Not all of them yet. There's still a chance to save them.
10.
Yeah, I think about 10. That's what we were talking about.
And Mommy and Daddy were sitting on the truck.
We were sitting on the truck. Yeah. And why did you say you wanted to come tonight? Because I asked you if you wanted to come. You've been having fun back there. Why did you want to come?
It's because I needed to say something.
What did you want to say?
Oh. Well, without air we can't just breathe or speak, right?
Without air, we can't breathe. That's right. And it would be hard to speak. Is that all you wanted to say? All right. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, if there's nobody else, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the city council meeting. Motion by Kasserag, which is all it's needed. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. We'll just take a moment to transition to the committee of the whole meeting.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Amy Mayer. I am the alderperson of the 4th Ward, along with Martha Paschke. Alderperson Martha Paschke. I am here tonight for the committee of the whole meeting on September 5th, 2023. I'm calling this meeting to order first. And do I need to do the motion?
To say only absent.
Oh, Alderperson Swanson is the only person absent tonight. And first, item number 2 is to approve the committee of the whole minutes from July 3rd, 2023 and August 21st, 2023. Do I have a motion? Second. Alderperson Bowring made the motion, and Alderperson Kasserag with the second. Got the Bowring right, too. Okay, so voice vote sufficient? All in favor, say aye, please. Aye. Thank you. Unanimous. The first item of business is to consider draft resolution authorizing the execution of a license agreement with MCI Metro Access Transmission Services LLC. Ms. Dawkins, do you have? Oh, motion? Alderperson Kasserag. Second. Alderperson Paschke, 4th Ward.
So MCI Metro Access Transmission Services LLC contacted the city to install fiber optic cable within a specified city public utility easement. For the Committee of the Whole's consideration is a license agreement negotiated between the city attorney and MCI Metro. The license agreement limits the rights of MCI Metro to install their fiber specifically as identified within the shown PUE that was in the packet. If you have additional questions, we do have Director Babica, almost the only person left in the room this evening.
Does anyone have any questions? Alderperson Kasserag.
I do. I don't know if you have to get up for this, Rich. I was just wondering, is this a new service that's coming to the community? Why are they doing this? And then my other question was just going to be, are they putting in any more, I don't know what the right word is, conduits underground, any more hatches above ground, things like that we saw MetroNet do?
This is not a franchise agreement. This is simply a license agreement to access a very specific portion of the public utility easement, which they're entitled to do under state and federal guidelines and well, not guidelines, but statutes.
Gotcha. And will there be any, is it in the existing infrastructure, or will they be creating any new excavation portals to the underground like we saw a lot of MetroNet do?
Well, the plans that are shown in the packet, which are included as an Exhibit B to the license agreement, shows them coming down Route 38, which they'll secure a permit through the state of Illinois to do that. And then basically they follow an existing public utility easement along the south side. I think it's the Tyler Bank, 1900 West State, I think. And then they're taking that south. The plans do show them doing an underground bore with handhelds, so there will be infrastructure installed both within our public utility easement and the state right-of-way. We cannot stipulate means and methods. So the engineering plans that are included in the packet basically show their intended route, but they have that option to install that once granted by the city of Geneva and the state of Illinois, to install it in the manner they deem most efficient.
Gotcha. Okay.
Again, this is not a franchise agreement. What MetroNet did was a franchise agreement. It's a completely different animal.
Okay. Thank you very much. That was all my questions.
Anyone else? Seeing none, sensing none. Voice vote? Voice vote is sufficient. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Unanimous. Okay, item B, consider draft resolution authorizing acceptance of proposal from Berglund Construction to perform repairs to the South First Street retaining wall in an amount not to exceed $74,250. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Bruno Maladra.
Okay, so in November 2022, a city-owned retaining wall was damaged in a hit-and-run accident along the south side of South First Street, Illinois Route 31. This wall is outside the state right-of-way, but within a city easement. A claim was submitted to the city's insurance carrier and payment was received. However, the amount received was significantly less than what the actual repair cost will be. As the wall is historic, it requires specific expertise for repair. A restoration plan was developed and a request for proposals was issued, with one qualified proposal from Berglund Construction of Chicago, Illinois, received and which was attached in the packet for your review. In order to begin repair to the wall, the recommendation is to accept the proposal received and include a 10% contingency for any unforeseen field changes that may occur. A supplemental claim has been submitted to the city's insurance carrier for their review, and any costs that ultimately are not covered by insurance would be covered using the Infrastructure Capital Projects Fund. This evening, either Assistant City Administrator McCready or Director Babica could answer any additional questions.
Does anyone have any questions? Alderperson Kilberg.
I guess I wonder what the urgency is, since it was November when the accident occurred. It's been in a state of disrepair since. I'm wondering why we might not want to wait to see what the insurance company does in response to the communication that we've had with them, since if we make a decision to forge ahead with the $74,250 this evening, then the insurance company might just say, well, the city's addressed it and they're going to cover it. I mean, I think it takes the insurance company off the hook a little bit.
I will let either Director Babica or Assistant City Administrator McCready opine, but I think one of the concerns is that it is a retaining wall, so it is there for a purpose. It's not just a decorative wall. And the second thing is trying to get the construction done before the next winter season. But I don't know if Director Babica or Assistant City Administrator have anything else to add.
I inspected it today, and obviously it was hit. I think that the wall would still serve to retain a vehicle or anything else that might opt to strike at the same location. I guess my question is too, if in fact the entire wall, which is already leaning toward Route 31, was to cave in, would it be the responsibility of the city to restore the wall to its original state or historic state, which could cost the city maybe upwards of $1 million predicated on the numbers that obviously this company is prepared to contract for about 15 feet of repair? I guess my other question is has Historic Preservation taken a look at this, and this is a directive from Historic Preservation that it has to be reconstructed to its original state or as close as possible to its original state? Because I think as a taxpayer, if they look at this and they look at the extent of what needs to be repaired, I think they're going to roll their eyebrows and say, this seems to be pretty excessive, really, for about 15 feet of cement work to put a wall back into a state where it serves its purpose. So I guess I'd like to have my questions answered if that'd be possible. Is this funny?
It's not often that I say
There was
this,
just a lot of questions in there to figure out who's the first person to address them.
Well, I think as an alderman, I think there should be some respect, and if this was a question that was out of order, I don't think laughter should be a part of it.
I apologize too. I was thinking I would have preferred to have had a stenographer to read those questions back, because you asked a lot of questions in a short span. So excuse me if I miss over them.
I'd be glad to restate those if there are any that you might forget. Thank you.
Okay. So first off, Michael Lambert was involved with the assessment of that wall, as was the then building commissioner, Eric Nelson, as well as myself and the street superintendent, as well as the police department after the hit and run. This was a result of a hit and run accident in the middle of November. The retaining wall is in a landscape easement, specifically there to protect and preserve the retaining wall. So it's not the property owner. It doesn't serve to protect the homes from the traffic on 31. It is a remnant wall of the original estate from that entire block, which was the home is still there. Because it is city infrastructure, it did not, Michael Lambert prepared the assessment of the wall and actually prepared a general scope of specifications, which was used in the RFP that was solicited. Because of the investigation performed by Michael and ongoing insurance back and forth with the insurance company to get the initial assessment, and then weather conditions that precluded it from being undertaken earlier in the year, and then issuing an open solicitation, again, trying to develop a I shouldn't say a specification, but the RFP packet geared specifically to historic preservation or companies that have a historic preservation background. Those were conducted over the summer. And then there was a lengthy review by, I think it was 5 members of city staff, including the Director of Community Development, Michael Lambert, the Building Department, myself, and Superintendent Landers, and the city engineer. Reviewed the proposal to make sure that it was met all our criteria. Michael Lambert did some investigations of the contractor and was satisfied that they had the technical and professional background to complete the repairs. And as a result of the issuance of the RFP, and unfortunately we only did receive one, and that is going to be more and more common. We're seeing throughout contracts, especially with some of these niche projects, that we brought forth this recommendation. When we did have the bid opening, and there was only one, Assistant City Administrator McCready became involved with the insurance, seeking a supplemental claim, and so Ben has been working on that. This has been a significant impact of staff time and resources to make sure that the retaining wall is built properly and with the proper materials. There are 2 bins of debris that were collected from the accident site that are in storage at Public Works that will be reused and recycled to the best possibility. Also, different quarries have been researched trying to match the particular limestone that was used, not cement. There's mortar. There's been an analysis of the mortar to ensure that it is the proper composition and chemical compounds. That is currently underway. So when it is restored with accurate materials and components. So there has been a lot of effort to restore what this has been deemed as a historically significant retaining wall to the city of Geneva. That is city property, to make this as pleasing as possible to the public, and as well, I have been in personal contact with the adjacent property owner because they have been exceedingly patient with us as we work through this process. It has been November, it's been 11 months since the date of this accident. So that property owner has been patient with us. They've had barricades sitting in front of their house for almost a year now, and we're trying to get this wrapped up and installed and repaired before we lose another construction season, which is getting far closer than anybody probably really thinks about, other than myself and probably a couple people in this room. So I apologize if I did miss over a question, but I at least tried to give a general overview to answer how we got to where we're at and why we're here. I think you did ask another question about the appropriateness of retaining wall. That's a policy decision. That's not my purview. That's a policy decision by the city council, not me.
My remaining question was, if the entire wall were to collapse and fall toward 31, does that mean then that we're going to have to undertake a project that's probably somewhere around 120 feet as far as the replacement and the recreation of what was there over the last probably better part of a century or more? I know that you can't answer that question, but I'm thinking that if we move ahead tonight, especially before we hear back from the insurance company, and we make this decision, then we create a precedent then that means that if that wall over the next decade falls to the east, and if you look at it if you look at the picture that was in the packet that was given to us, there's a degree of lean to it, which means that the earth is pressing against it and that it's not, it's just a matter of how long it will take before that wall will fall onto the sidewalk then on the west side of 31 there. The precedent, I think, is maybe even a bigger concern than the fact that we're looking for $74,000 tonight. That's my opinion, and I try to spend the city's money as if it was my own money, and that was my argument. I'm not against historic preservation, but I'm saying I think if you'd ask a lot of people in Geneva if that repair is really something of that degree of history in our community that needs to be preserved. I think, there's a stone wall on Northeast Side Drive that is falling into a state of disrepair. I guess, is that what we're going to tackle next? Because I'm sure that stone fence that's there is also a piece of history here in Geneva, and that if we make a commitment on 31, are we going to make a commitment also on East Side Drive?
Are you talking about on the Moore Farm property? Is that the stone wall that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. And it needs mortar work. It's falling apart. But you create a precedent here. That means anyone that says our stone wall is in a bad shape, and if it's in a right-of-way, and the city has a responsibility, are we going to undertake it? But those are some things to think about. And maybe I overthink these things, but I'm just saying it does seem like a lot of money for the degree of work that needs to be done, and I'm just wondering if there couldn't be an approach that preserves its appearance in an attractive way that doesn't cost us $75,000. Thank you.
I believe there was an extra question that didn't get responded to about the insurance claim, and if this insurance, if moving forward would limit our ability to get the full claim.
If I may address that issue and another issue. So on the insurance claim, no, because you're to take all action that you can take to prevent further damage. So if this is part of ensuring that you're stabilizing it for the next winter season, you're doing everything you need to do, and that does not jeopardize your claim. The second comment is this wall, I think it's important to note that it's in a city easement, which is different than just being on a city right-of-way. It is an agreement that was made at some point in time that this would be the city's responsibility, and that's why we're in the position we're in.
And, I'm sorry, Alderperson Bowring, I'm going to go to you.
So I have a couple of points in response to Alderperson Kilberg's statements. The first, excuse me, that's probably appropriate. Am I not allowed to?
Just go ahead and make your comments.
Here are my comments. So I live in the historic district of Geneva. I'm very familiar with the HPC's operations. My home is considered contributing, so I've gone through this process. I've also watched numerous HPC proceedings where I've seen individuals come before the HPC to try to bring forward projects on a variety of scopes. And I think it's important for all of Geneva and also for the council to remember that the HPC really tries to be consistent in how it applies the standards. They're not arbitrary standards. They didn't make them up. They come from the Department of the Interior. And I would say that, for one, as a resident of Geneva who lives in the historic district, who has had to abide by the requirements of the HPC, I want the city to do the same thing. I want to hold all of our community members to the same standard. I think that is what's most appropriate. As we've heard, this wall is in a public easement, so we have a responsibility to maintain that. I think for someone who perhaps does not have as much direct experience with undertaking work that is historical preservative in nature. I really ran myself into a corner there. It is extremely expensive. My husband and I sometimes joke that the most historically accurate thing to do would be the cheapest thing, because that's what they did back in the day, but that's not really the point of HPC. The point of HPC is to try to maintain and preserve the history that we have. And so I think that that includes a wall that we have taken responsibility for. In addition, I guess it sounds to me like what we've heard from Public Works Director is that there are potential safety concerns. I mean, I guess I don't want to be the one deciding that we don't need to do anything to reinforce this wall. And then again, I think appearance is important. We hear from residents not infrequently about how various issues impact, their way of life, their comfort in town, and I think while we're waiting to find the final adjudication from the insurance company on this, it's a responsibility also to the neighbor, all the neighbors and people driving by to maintain this. I think that reflects well on Geneva for us to do that. I hope we can recoup more money from the insurance company, but I think even if that is not possible, it's still our responsibility to do the right thing here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alderperson Maladra.
I would echo what Alderperson Bowering said, and I would add, the way I look at it, what staff has done is figured out the most cost-effective way to repair the wall in a historically accurate fashion. The question of, can we look for a cheaper option that looks just as nice? I don't know, basically I assume they found the most cost-effective path forward, given that we need to be held to the same standards as any other resident of the historic district. So I say, good job, and fix the damn wall.
Did I miss anyone? Anyone else? Alderperson Ruby.
Thank you. Can we just touch on, what was the original amount the insurance offered? It was like 7,000?
Correct, it was in the neighborhood, north of 7,000.
Okay.
That was after initial assessment. That was dated.
By the insurance company.
Yeah.
Right, so what, did we get, were there any specs with that? I mean, what did they think we could do for $7,000? It's such a huge discrepancy from 7 to 74.
And Rich, feel free to interject if I've learned not to wade into the world of engineering and design when I haven't been formally trained in it. But so typically when something like this would occur, we provide pictures, we provide descriptions, police reports, as much information as we have available. And so then the adjuster, whoever's looking at that, is looking at materials involved, estimating it, looking at the amount of damage that's done. So that was based off of just what we were able to provide before snow hit in November, December. So when we were left at that, they processed it initially to start the process, leaving it open then, knowing that we still had to go out there probably after the winter season to start really looking at the wall and determining what the extent of it was. And Rich and I have been through this before with other walls in the city, of knowing that the superficial damage, what we see on the outside, can sometimes look relatively minor. But then when we look at what's required to make sure that it's up to our standards and make sure that it's an adequate fix, there can be additional costs added to it.
Okay, so again, was there a description given with the insurance company's quote of the work that would be done for that $7,000? I mean, I understand it wouldn't be historic, but would it fix the wall, is what I'm wondering.
I'd say, I think theirs was based more on materials and the amount of space there, but not necessarily the work that goes into what I'd call the engineering behind it. So they didn't bid on the process or anything like that. They looked at what's our estimate for a generic retaining wall.
Okay.
And that's the key term there, a generic retaining wall.
Okay, and so next question, any idea on timeframe of, you've appealed? Is that, I don't know if
No, that's there's it's no appeal. It's just once we got additional information in. So we didn't have, until we got the rest of this information back in quotes, we didn't have a firm price our a realistic market price to give to them to have the repairs done. So as soon as we have that, as soon as we got that in hand, we started working with our brokers to then go back to that insurance agency and say, we have this open claim, this is the additional estimates we've now received to complete the work that's done. And part of this is, you know, when we have claims that happen later in the year, insurance companies are generally good about understanding that we're in a northern Midwestern climate, we're gonna have winter to contend with, and it's not projects that we can take on in February when the ground's frozen, or March, and we have to wait till spring at best to be able to get someone out on site. And even then, it's not guaranteed we can do the work then.
Okay, so currently, is the status of this with the insurance company, they're reviewing the
Yeah.
proposal for the 74,250?
Yes, they've got the full kit and caboodle now with a bid and a proposal to do the work, and so that's been tendered to them of, here's what we thought it was at the time, but now that we have more realistic information, and this, again, I would say is not uncommon, or out of the realm of possibilities to have happen with an insurance claim.
Okay, and do they give you a time frame on a response?
I have not I have not been given a time frame on a response, but it's certainly something that I am actively watching for. And again, we have our brokers involved with us as well on this, just to make sure that this one gets done and that we're advocating for the city's interest and position on this.
Okay, so you don't have any idea if it'll be
I
a
would
week
expect
or
to have
6
something
months?
very soon.
Okay.
Now that they have all the information in hand, I would not expect it to take much longer.
Okay, how long have they had all the information, do you know?
A
approximately?
couple weeks at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Alderperson Bruno.
Thank you,
Oh,
Madam.
I'm sorry, I missed Alderperson Marks.
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Rich.
No, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay.
You started.
I just wanted to concur, you know, the city has to hold itself to same standards, even higher standards than we ask of residents. Move ahead with it. Hopefully our insurance query will be fruitful. Thank you.
Alderperson Marks.
This is going to probably be for Ben, or do we have a deductible on that policy that we're going to be paying anyways? And I guess my question is do we have the coverage for that? I mean, the real question is does it cover, you know, historic structures when, I'm thinking they just bid on pouring concrete for 12 to 16 feet is what I'm thinking they did, or you're shaking your head, no, you may know that too. So I'm suspecting that's kind of what they did, and not look at it as a historic retaining wall, correct? I mean, I'm assuming that's probably what happened, but do they look at that differently? I mean, should we have had different coverage for that, or we don't know at this point?
When this happened, again, it's not, like you said, it's a historic piece of property. So when this first occurred, that was part of our first discussions with our brokers and with the insurance company is verifying that it was a claim that we could actually tender to them and that there would be coverage for it. So we went through that process at the very start, verifying that it was eligible for coverage. I believe the deductible on that one is $5,000.
Okay.
So that's part of the process of getting to where we are so far.
Okay.
Yeah, so I would clarify, while we got a check for $7,500, you have to add the $5,000,
That's what I was
which is our
trying to get to,
deductible.
yeah.
So actually, the estimate that they based it on was the $7,000 plus the $5,000.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have questions, comments? I would like to opine a little bit. Retaining walls in general are the most litigated structures that there are in architecture and engineering because they fail often. And what Alderperson Kilberg was describing, the listing of a retaining wall happens very often and it needs to be tended to. So what we may need to do is look at that retaining wall and relieve some of the overburden as well so that it's not continuing to migrate to horizontal. But I think that this is one of the principal historic properties in Geneva. It's in front of Eastview Mansion, and we should take care of it, absolutely. And taking care of things can happen before there's a hit-and-run accident. So I think that we should include these kind of things in our facilities maintenance program to make sure that if we need to tuck point walls that are under our care, we take care of that in a timely manner before there's a serious concern. So that's my 2 cents on retaining walls. But I'm in favor of fixing this one for sure. It's an important historic feature of a mansion in our hometown here. So. Take a vote. Oh.
Sorry, just one more question. This is the result of a car accident? So, hit and run.
Hit and run.
Okay, never mind. All right. So if it weren't a hit and run, would the person's car insurance,
We would go against their
their
car,
insurance would be
yes.
liable? Okay. Thank you.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Bruno,
Aye.
Ruby,
Aye.
Kilberg,
Nay.
Kasserag,
Aye.
Maladra,
Aye.
Marks,
Aye.
Mayor,
Aye.
Paschke,
Aye.
Bowering.
Aye.
8 to 1, it passes.
Thank you.
Item C, consider draft ordinance amending Title I Administrative, Chapter 8 Municipal Finances, Article A, Bidding and Contract Procedures of the Geneva City Code. Do I have a motion? Bowering with the motion and Kasserag with the second.
Okay, so the Illinois Municipal Code specifically addresses purchasing and public works contracts in municipalities less than 500,000. Public Act 100-0338, which was effective on 8/25/2017, increased the purchasing limit by which formal bid procedures must be followed from $20,000 to $25,000. The ordinance for your consideration would amend the Geneva City Code 1-8A Bidding and Contract Procedures to increase the purchasing limit to mirror state statute. In addition, the ordinance also increases the purchasing authority of department heads from $2,500 to $5,000 as long as certain requirements are met. And again, I'm happy to answer any questions. This is really just trying to clean up. You may notice the last couple of weeks, we've been bringing various code items because we're trying to clean up the code. We were trying to do a bigger overhaul and it just wasn't getting done, so now I'm just piecemeally bringing items for amendments to mirror state statute or practice.
Does anyone have any comments or questions? Seeing none, sensing none, voice vote? Voice vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimous. Now is the time for public comment. I don't think Officer Parisi wants to say anything tonight. New business, anyone on the dais have new business? All right, that's a motion to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much. Oh.
You can slam me if you want, yeah.